Marines were on evening patrol in the northern city of Cap-Haitien. One U.S. Marine who serves as an interpreter was shot in the leg during what is described as a brief battle. His injuries are not believed to be life-threatening. Tonight's shooting is the first outbreak of violence in 6 days of Operation Uphold Democracy. The multinational mission led by U.S. forces has been described as one of peacekeeping after an 11th hour agreement reached Sunday between Haiti's military leaders and a U.S. delegation. We have this live report now from Bob Simon.
8 Haitians have been killed in Cap-Haitien by U.S. Marines. This is Haiti's second largest city. The incident happened around dusk. The Marines were on patrol. They stopped across the street from a police station. One of the Marines on patrol said that the 4 guys came at them, they looked spooked, and in his words, they lit up their weapons. The Marines returned fire. It is not clear whether the 8 men who were killed were uniformed policemen or attachés, members of the infamous paramilitary force which does the regime's dirty work. One Marine, a Haitian interpreter, was wounded in the leg. The injury is described as not serious. All around the city, people heard the quick firefight. They closed up their shutters. An eerie quiet descended upon the city. It was all quiet except for the incessant ringing of the phone from inside the police station. The battalion commander, the Marine battalion commander, passed by and said, "The phone's ringing, but no one's home." The incident will certainly complicate the U.S. relations with the regime which they've been working with here. However, it will endear the Marines and all the other U.S. forces to the poor people of Haiti who have been terrorized by the police and by the paramilitary forces for the last 3 years. This is Bob Simon, CBS News in Haiti. Now back to you.
The violence came after a day of jubilation in the streets. Haitians were celebrating a promised change of power as top U.S. military brass arrived to visit troops. Christiane Amanpour has this report.
For the first time in 3 years, thousands of Aristide supporters organized a street demonstration. It was raucous, but mostly peaceful. They stayed mainly around the U.S. bases, running between the port and the airfield, waving U.S. flags and signs neatly written in English. The message was clear.
We want Aristide return. CBS must go.
Defense Secretary William Perry and General John Shalikashvili, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, met with their commanders, made a whistle-stop tour of the troops, and afterwards emphasized the potential pitfalls of this intervention.
We, through our presence, can mitigate the behavior of both the military force or the police force and also the crowd.
As the day wore on, it quickly became clear that U.S. troops could get caught in the middle. In one incident, a man with machete wounds was brought to a U.S. medical facility. Then Aristide supporters went after the police official who wounded him. He hid in a latrine, and as he emerged covered in excrement, the crowd threw rocks. Police dispersed them with tear gas. A young boy was seriously wounded. Though U.S. troops broadcast daily messages and toss leaflets urging all sides to remain calm, this mission could become risky business. Christiane Amanpour, Port-au-Prince.
Maryland State Police are investigating a high-speed chase that ended in an accident on the Beltway near Lanham. Police say a car fleeing police crashed on the outer loop at the exit to Route 50. Prince George's County Police, who were involved in the chase, have not released any other details at this time other than to say it began at 9 p.m. Prince George's County Police are searching for a teenager who shot and killed a man in the Landover Mall parking lot during an attempted robbery. A second man was wounded. The shots rang out in the afternoon while hundreds of people were shopping nearby. The 2 men were mechanics at the Goodyear outlet. At 1:30 this afternoon, they were having lunch in this red car parked a few hundred feet from the shopping center. Another mechanic from a Sears shop was road testing a car and noticed suspicious activity.
As far as I know, there's somebody tried to rob him.
Prince George's homicide detectives are still piecing together witness accounts and evidence at the scene.
Preliminary reports and witness statements revealed that they were sitting in a vehicle, approached by a lone gunman who opened fire on the people in the car.
One man, shot 3 times, managed to get back to the Goodyear shop for help. He is in stable condition at Prince George's Hospital Center. The other man was pronounced dead on arrival to the hospital.
The suspect is described right now as a black male in his late teens, early 20s, wearing a black bandana. He fled on foot and was seen entering a green, older model station wagon with tinted windows and a chrome strip down the side.
Police have identified the man who was killed as 35-year-old Cozy Beatty of Landover, Maryland. The name of the wounded man has not been released. Motorists beware. For the second time in less than a week, a gunman opened fire on a car traveling on a major Virginia highway. The latest incident happened at 9:30 last night on I-95 between Garrisonville and Quantico exits. Virginia State Police say the shots came from a gray Ford van. First, it tailgated the car, then pulled alongside it, spraying bullets. One lodged in the car's floorboard. The driver and passenger were not hurt. Police say the van was registered in North Carolina. It had been rented by a couple with 4 children. Officials say there have been 9 random shootings on Virginia highways in the last few months. Police have this advice for drivers.
Try to drive in as non-threatening a way as you can, either by changing lanes calmly, not swerving, and not trying to be threatening or be provoking in any way. This, as was apparently the shooting on Monday, apparently provoked. Some type of provocation was involved in these tailgating incidents.
That shooting on Monday involved a couple and their infant daughter who were shot at by a tailgater who followed them from Route 1 to the Capitol Beltway in Virginia. They also managed to escape injury. A fight involving several teenagers outside of Fairfax Elementary School erupted in gunfire last night. When police arrived at the White Oaks Elementary School in Burke, they found a 17-year-old who had been shot in the neck. A 15-year-old was found at a nearby shopping center. He had been shot in the shoulder. Police say the 2 teens had been involved in a fight at the school. Both had to be hospitalized. The injuries do not appear to be life-threatening. Police are still searching for the gunman. Investigators think they've found another clue in the fatal crash of U.S. Air Flight 427. And tens of thousands of people participated in Washington area's annual AIDS Walk. We'll have the story.
Imagine a couple of Swedish engineers have dinner with a couple of German engineers. The Swedish engineers over herring talk about safety, while the German engineers over bratwurst talk about the joy of driving. And what do you think they'd end up with? Probably the new Volvo 960. Now the only question is, who's going to pick up the tab? The new 960 from Volvo.
Centuries ago, an ingenious Italian chef created a masterpiece called ravioli. At Contadina, we've taken that passion even further with our chicken and rosemary ravioli. Like all Contadina refrigerated pastas, it's always freshly made for a tender-hearted taste that's hard to resist. Try it with our new pesto with sun-dried tomatoes and create your own masterpiece. Contadina refrigerated pastas and sauces, the freshest ideas in Italian cooking.
The all-new Subaru Impreza Coupe has dual airbags and crumple zones to help you survive accidents. But its real beauty is helping you avoid them. Subaru all-wheel drive is the ultimate safety feature, transferring power automatically from the wheels that slip to the wheels that grip. It's the kind of safety no one can afford to be without. And at this price, no one has to be. The all-road, all-weather, all-wheel drive Subaru Impreza. The beauty of all-wheel drive.
This technology is miraculous. Ever since our head of sales, Curtis the Curt Man Bruno, put our catalog online, he hasn't bothered me once.
What's the latest with Darlene?
Oh, forget that. Check this out. I can get our entire winter catalog out to 2,000 bookstores just like that. And press this button, you get an entire summary of the book.
Just like that?
Interactive.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
I love technology.
Federal investigators believe they found another link in the crash of U.S. Air Flight 427. The Boeing 727 slammed into the ground near Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, killing all 132 people on board. Today, authorities say wake turbulence from another jet may have contributed to the crash. Investigators say Flight 427 was within the required distance from the other plane, but that the altitude difference between the two planes would have caused the U.S. air jet to encounter turbulence. Investigators say that turbulence would not have been enough to cause the plane to crash, but it may have been part of a chain of events leading to the disaster. The National Transportation Safety Board says it is also looking into crew performance. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets of Washington today for the annual AIDS Walk. The event is a fundraiser for 24 D.C. area organizations that provide health care and education programs to combat the disease. Medical and science reporter Bob Althage has the story.
It's been 2 years to the month since Ryan Cantrell died. 2 years since Bill and Nancy Cantrell lost their son, and Haley, her brother.
Ryan was a happy little bundle of joy. He was free-spirited, he liked to laugh, enjoyed playing with wrestling guys, He-Man figures, watched television, enjoyed school. When he felt well enough, the best thing he could do was to go to school.
Although they're not certain what caused Ryan's infection, the Woodbridge, Virginia family believes it was from tainted blood during one of 2 open-heart surgeries when he was a baby. Ryan was diagnosed with AIDS in 1990. 2 years later, he was dead.
And we're angry, we're disappointed, and we come here to share, and we have all these emotions coming through us. And it's still everything we can do, we're still grabbing for.
Today, the Cantrell family stood quietly amid a throng gathered on the mall to demonstrate their concern over the continuing epidemic. It's estimated that 40,000 people turned out for the 5-mile march to raise $1.7 million for D.C. area AIDS programs. Those who lent their names and efforts to the march voiced both hope and frustration that the list of those the disease has claimed continues to grow.
Despair is an emotion that is sometimes too easy to embrace. And during these last 13 years, I know too many of us have sat at the bedside of a friend, of a lover, of a loved one who has died, and we have been with them and held their hands. Each of us has attended one too many memorial services for people who died way too soon.
This year, special recognition was given to the many homeless people in the D.C. area who have AIDS.
Life on the streets is cruel enough if you're healthy. But to be stricken with AIDS and suffer alone and neglected is unconscionable.
Ever since their son Ryan died, the Cantrells have come to this march, and they intend to keep coming, to make their very personal statement about the loss they still suffer.
I was only here for 9 years, 5 months, and 2 days, but we hope that we made those moments here on Earth happy ones.
Bob Althage, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Still to come, Tony Williams tells us if our Sunday is going to be sunny side up. His forecast when Eyewitness News continues.
Over easy, more likely. I'll tell you about it.
I think the important thing is he leave his post as Commander-in-Chief. We're totally confident he'll do that by October 15th. We would hope he would leave. There'd be no real role for him to play in a new constitutional government. It'd be best for the country if he did leave, although he's not required to do so.
We're getting some initial reports on some anti-American sentiment being expressed today. Can you tell us about that?
I'm not familiar with that. Everything I've seen has been very pro-American. I think the presence of the American troops here has really changed the nature of this society, and it's given people a kind of hope that they haven't had for some 3 years now.
Okay. My mind just went blank. Okay. So as the
Let
next
me ask
question.
one other thing then. We have seen in Haiti this week military members and police officials beating Haitians. What, if anything, are you doing to protect those in the military regime from any reprisals that may come from pro-Aristide forces after the power shift October 15th?
Well, I think that well could happen, and it's something that's of great concern to us and, of course, to the military and their followers. I think what we'd like to have is the establishment of a secure order which is solid enough to protect retaliation from both sides. I think we're well on our way to achieving that with something like near 10,000 troops already here. So the object, I think, is to create an overwhelming force and a military presence throughout the entire country so that retaliation and vengeance will not take place from either side.
Mr. Schrager, there are members in Congress who are now getting ready to introduce a bill to limit the amount of time that U.S. troops are there. What is your response to that?
I think we've always said we want these troops to stay as short a time as possible, and we've talked about several months. I've heard they could be out by Christmas, by December. The whole point and the whole exit strategy of the United States military presence is to turn this over to United Nations peacekeeping force, blue-helmeted soldiers from many different nationalities, including a large contingent from the U.S. I think we're off to a very good start. I think the progress we've made in 5 short days is really remarkable. The people have supported it, and the presence in the streets really is quite something.
Stanley Schrager, spokesperson from the U.S. Embassy in Haiti, we thank you so much for joining us live on Eyewitness News at 5.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, commemorating history-making events at one of Washington's most popular memorials. We'll take you to the student-funded exhibit in just a moment.